Guys, gentlemen, Flex Fountain Pens, episode number 83. And today will only be marginally related to Flex Fountain Pens. It's going to be more about diaries and journals and some of the stuff I've tried and what I've kind of learned over the last, 2.5 years or so of using diaries. What you see here is, this is kind of a typical traveler's notebook. It's kind of set up for Midori notebooks, but I use these, typically I use the smoother, less absorbent Clairfontain paper because it's easier to write on, especially with like thin Flex Fountain pens. The tip of the nib doesn't get stuck on them. This is just my little homemade cover. Take this off. I got a real cover coming. Actually, I might try to make one as well. But this is something different that I just started this year in 2021. And it's called a Hobonichi. I don't know if it's a techno, but it's a 5-year book. So the way it's set up is the dates are not called out on here, other than this would be the 10th of June, but not the day. And there's a small area for 5 different years of entries. So the cool thing about this is that you can write an entry here this year, and next year when you come past this day, you can kind of take a look at what happened that particular day, and same for the 3rd year, the 4th year, and the 5th year. And I think that's going to be cool if I stick with it. And so, I've kind of started some, and so that's a little bit about this book. These are kind of expensive, by the way, and they're hard to get. They sell out fast. I think there's an English version. I thought it'd be cooler to have the Japanese version, but it also happened to be the only version that was available. I think the next one comes out is you can buy now, but it doesn't start until April. This is what I've been using for the last few years, kind of a workhorse travel notebook. I bring this into coffee shops with me, or into restaurants, or the doctor's office, or if we're traveling. And when I first started it, I was calling it a journal. But what I found out is a journal is really something that I thought it was something that it was a men's diary, a man's diary. But a journal is actually for anybody who wants to write their thoughts. Doesn't have to even be particular to that particular day, but it represents a thought you had that day. Politics, health, relationships, math, music, whatever you want to write in here. And I have, each one of these is about 6 months worth, and they're just, this is on a trip to England, Spain, and Portugal in 2018, and so I had a lot of stuff to say. There's no restrictions on how many pages you want to write for each day, so you could write 10 pages for that particular day if you had a mind to. And you can use flex pens with this, in that there's enough space that you can display your ability to flex, do your Spencerian, and that sort of stuff. So that made these kind of fun. And then you get a cover for it, which helps protect the books. Here's the other Clairfontain, and some different notes in there. There's room for carrying stuff, because they have these inserts that are really kind of designed. And by the way, the size of this is an A5, the size of this is an A6. The way those sizes work is each higher number is half the size of the preceding number. I didn't know that until recently. This I was actually using as a card to keep the sheet clean while I wrote. I noticed that SRE Brown does that, and I thought it'd be cool to try it, but I ended up not using it. I also usually carry a blotter paper. If we're traveling, I got travel notes in here, maybe tickets. I had insurance at this particular time for that trip, and so I have that sort of stuff in there. But that was fun, but it is a little bit on the bulky side. there's kind of a feeling of work associated with it. It's like you can't just write down January 13th, beautiful outside, had a great day. I mean, you can write that, but this kind of makes you want to write more, like a full page or more, and something prophetic, something, something mind-blowing. And to a small degree, you feel a little bit of that pressure when you do this. And I think there's a lot of jabberwocky, for lack of a better term, a lot of non-meaningful stuff. And that's fine, but it's not really what I want to have in there. Now, the other thing is that when you're done with this, and this is about 6 months worth. I'm sure you can get books that are a full year, but instead you do like 6 months worth, and then you put it away, and this stuff sits on the shelf, and maybe 5-10 years from now I'll look at this stuff. More probably I'll be dead. I don't know what my kids will do with it. Probably spend a few minutes looking at it, laughing at it, and then throwing it out. So then I start thinking, well, this is kind of cool. I mean, you can't write a lot of information on this side, but you can expand over here. Now, you can't do that with beyond certain amounts of space, because then you run out of it for future years. But it's small. The cover I have coming will make it a little bit larger, but it'll also help me carry, things like blotting paper and tickets. And remember, I talked about being a journal. Well, I had the mistaken impression growing up in the age that I grew up that diaries are something that young girls do, that they lock up and they hide in their bed. That certainly happens, but a diary is for anybody who wants to basically kind of record and maybe remember what they did on that particular day. And when you have a full page like this, like I said, it's kind of work writing it. At least I was kind of feeling that. But over here, you don't really have to write that much. I mean, sometimes let me see if I can find one that. So here's one. Now here I'm really shoving as much as I can into this little space. I could have written a little bit more over here. Saturday woke up early. The felt I have coming in I have a writing slip that I wanted to put felt on it. Had fun putting that in. Something about my personal debt. Went to my daughter's house and played with her dog Georgie, but it was cold and windy. Did some drone flying, made a sphere photo out of it and put it on Facebook. And then I also ordered a Platinum 3776 UEF so I can get another really thin tip nib. So that's kind of a short summary of January 9th on Saturday. Sometimes I'll put a couple words in there on the weather, but I kind of look forward to it because it's not a burden and I can write stuff in there. I suppose if I had some major world astounding thought in my head, I could come over here and I could use this whole space. Although I'd be robbing my ability to have other future outstanding thoughts in future years. And so what I might do is, when I'm in the future, when I can go to a coffee shop and other places like that, is this is still something I might do at the end of the day. This is like a closing activity to kind of summarize what happened during that day. And if I have those big ideas, they can be in here. So if I know I'm going to go somewhere and I want to write some stuff and have some fun with the Flex pen, then I'll bring this. But it's not a diary. It'll have a date on it, but it won't be telling you what I did today. And then it'll go on a shelf along with the other little books, maybe never to be seen again, but just the idea of writing and expressing your thought is kind of a satisfying thing to do, I think. The other thing I can tell you about this is that this uses, I don't know how to say it. Is it Tomoa River? Tomea River? It's really thin paper. It doesn't really bleed through. It's thin enough that you can see that there was some writing on the other side, but you can still write on it and read it without the other side interfering with your ability to read it. And because it's such thin paper, you can get 365 days worth of stuff in there. Now, other people will take this and they'll put stickers in it, and they'll spend a lot of time doing artwork. I do a little bit of art, so I might get into that. Stickers will never see their day in here unless it's a really special sticker. Yeah, everybody has their different hobbies, and I don't have to understand that one. So I think that's it. Now I'm going to do kind of another one shortly where I'll talk about the kind of pen to use with this, at least for what I want to do, where I want to put a lot of writing into it. What I've been using lately is this Sailor 1911. It's my first and only Sailor pen, and this sucker actually has, it's soft. It has a little bit of flex associated with it, which is pretty cool. But this pen, I can do a certain amount of light Spencerian in the bigger book. If I start doing that here so that you can actually see what you're doing, a couple things happen. One is that it's you put a lot of pressure on that really thin paper. There's not a lot of room, and so it's one thing to do this, and then when you have a really small thing, it just kind of all globs together. The other thing is when you do flex, it puts more ink on the paper, and that's why with this, unless I'm willing to leave the book open after I write for a while, I pretty much have to stick the blotting paper in and cut it down, because it resists any absorption of ink so well that the ink stays on the surface well and takes a while to dry. But just being able to do something like that takes care of it. A lot of times it dries on its own, depending on the ink that you use. So I think that's it. Hope that satisfied some interest you might have with diaries and journals, and especially on the Hobonichi 5-year. And I think that's it. Till next time, thanks for watching.